The Rock, a 34-year-old mechanic, had always been a hard worker. He spent his weekdays at Bryant's Auto Repair, fixing cars with skill and precision, earning enough to support his small family. When he wasn't working, he made sure to take care of his home, a modest two-story house on Maple Avenue just on the edge of town. The yard was small but meticulously cared for, with vibrant flowers and trimmed hedges that reflected the Rock's pride and effort. He had always loved working on his lawn, something his neighbors appreciated. One Saturday morning, the Rock splurged on a new piece of equipment, a shiny, top-of-the-line riding lawnmower from the local hardware store, Ace Hardware. It wasn't cheap, but it was a tool he knew would save him time and effort. As he unboxed the mower in his driveway, he felt like a kid on Christmas morning. He couldn't wait to get it started. He followed the instructions carefully, filled the tank with gas and polished the new machine until it shone. Once everything was ready, the Rock hopped on, gripping the steering wheel with both hands. The mower roared to life, and he grinned. This was going to make his weekends so much easier. But little did he know, his excitement would soon be tested. Right. Next door, in the bright yellow house, lived Claire Winters, a woman whose reputation had long preceded her. In her 50s, Claire had a knack for making herself the center of attention, whether it was warranted or not. Her daily wardrobe choices were often loud and flashy, more fitting for a night out than a quiet suburban street. But her fashion wasn't the only thing that made her stand out. It was her personality, blunt, abrasive, and unapologetically dramatic. Claire didn't just observe life from the sidelines. She inserted herself into it, often without being invited. Her presence was a constant source of gossip in the neighborhood. Claire was known for meddling in other people's business, making snide remarks and stirring up trouble wherever she went. But what made her truly unbearable was her racist attitude. Over the years, she had made it clear that she didn't like certain people based on the color of their skin, and she didn't hesitate to voice these opinions. When she wasn't complaining about neighbors or complaining about the smallest inconveniences, Claire was quick to make condescending, racially charged comments that made everyone uncomfortable. For the Rock, living next door to Claire was an unspoken challenge. He had tried to avoid direct confrontation with her as much as possible, staying on his side of the fence, doing his own thing. Still, it was hard to ignore the way Claire would glare at him or make offhand remarks when she passed by. In a neighborhood that was otherwise friendly and tight-knit, Claire's negativity stood out like a sore thumb. It wasn't that the Rock was afraid of her, far from it. It was simply that Claire was the kind of person who thrived on drama and conflict, and he had no interest in feeding into that. But as he would soon discover, avoiding Claire wasn't going to be an option for much longer. Her disdain for him, fueled by whatever misguided prejudices she held, would soon force the Rock into a confrontation that neither of them was prepared for. The Rock started up the mower, and the engine hummed to life. It wasn't an unpleasant sound. It was just the normal noise of a riding mower at work. But as he began to work his way around the yard, he noticed movement from the corner of his eye. Claire's front door slammed open, and out she stormed. The Rock could see the anger in her expression even from across the yard. With quick, angry strides, Claire marched over to his property, crossing the invisible line that separated their two homes. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Claire screeched, her voice cutting through the quiet suburban air. The Rock froze, unsure if he had heard her correctly. "I'm mowing my lawn," he replied calmly, switching off the mower. He removed his ear protection, his heart beginning to race at the sudden confrontation. Claire crossed her arms tightly, glaring at him with a look that could cut glass. "That mower is way too loud. You're disturbing the entire block. My windows are rattling and it's giving me a headache." The Rock sighed, trying to keep his cool. "Ma'am, it's the middle of the day, and I'm just taking care of my property. I'm not breaking any laws by mowing my lawn," but Claire wasn't having it. "Normal people don't make that much noise," she spat, taking a step closer to him. "If you don't stop right now, I'm calling the cops. I'm not going to sit here and let you ruin my day." The Rock blinked in disbelief. "You're going to call the cops on me for mowing my lawn?" he asked, shaking his head in disbelief. But Claire was already pulling out her phone, tapping the screen with frantic speed. "Hello, police?" "Yes. I need to report a disturbance. There's a man here mowing his lawn and it's ridiculously loud. He refuses to stop and I feel unsafe. The Rock stood there, mouth agape, as Claire spun her web of lies. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You're calling the cops because I'm mowing my lawn?" he repeated, his voice tinged with frustration. Claire gave him a smug smile. "You'll see what happens when you mess with me," she muttered, her voice dripping with venom. Within minutes, 2 police cruisers pulled up to the curb, their sirens flashing. Officers Ramos and Hernandez stepped out, looking professional, but unimpressed. They walked toward the Rock and Claire, who was already on her performance. "I'm so glad you're here," Claire cried, clutching her chest as though she were having a heart attack. "This man is disturbing the peace. He's been mowing for hours, and it's endangering my health." The officers exchanged a glance before turning their attention to the Rock. "Sir, can you tell us what's going on?" Officer Ramos asked, his voice calm and neutral. "I'm just mowing my lawn," the Rock explained. "It's a new mower, and it's my first time using it. I wasn't aware it was causing any problems. It's the middle of the day, and I'm just taking care of my property." The officers turned to Claire, who was still fuming. "Ma'am, is there anything else you'd like to add?" Officer Hernandez asked. Claire's face turned beet red. "Yes. He's been doing this for hours. It's too loud. I can't take it anymore," she shrieked. Officer Ramos raised an eyebrow. "This is a standard riding mower. It's not unusually loud, and it's legal to use during the day." Claire's mouth dropped open in disbelief. But he's disturbing me. Doesn't that count for something?" she demanded, her voice rising in pitch. Officer Hernandez shook his head. "Ma'am, mowing the lawn during the day is not a crime. If the noise bothers you, you might want to consider closing your windows or wearing earplugs." Claire's eyes widened as the realization set in. She had no argument. The officers turned back to the Rock. "You're free to continue, but keep it brief," Officer Ramos advised. The Rock nodded, relieved, as the officers turned to leave. Claire watched them drive off, still fuming, but the Rock knew that this wasn't over. He had seen the way Claire operated. She was the type to escalate things until she got her way. After the tense encounter with Claire, the Rock couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She had called the police on him over something as simple as mowing his lawn, a trivial matter that had been blown out of proportion. Yet, it wasn't just the call to the authorities that bothered him. It was the way Claire had reacted, how quickly she had resorted to lies and manipulations to try and get him into trouble. He knew she had a history of being difficult, but this was something different, something deeper. It felt like she was targeting him for reasons far more personal, and it didn't take much for him to start connecting the dots. Determined to protect himself and find out more, the Rock decided to investigate. He had seen Claire act inappropriately in the past, but he had no idea just how far her behavior went. He knew it was time to dig into her past, not just for his own peace of mind, but to ensure that if things escalated again, he would be ready. The Rock spent hours researching online. He started with public records, looking for any hint of a criminal history or any past incidents involving Claire. What he found was shocking. Claire Winters wasn't just a loud, obnoxious neighbor. She had a dark side, one that included criminal charges. In fact, she had a criminal record for serious offenses, including inappropriate behavior with minors. Claire had been convicted and served time in prison for these actions, a fact that was readily available in public records. The Rock couldn't believe his eyes. This was the woman who had been harassing him? It wasn't just the criminal charges that shocked him. It was the realization that Claire had been able to live in the neighborhood for so long without anyone knowing the truth about her past. No one had seen the full picture, and it made the Rock uneasy to think about the possibility that she could be getting away with so much for so long. With the documents in hand, the Rock printed out copies of Claire's criminal record. He knew it was a risk to confront her directly, but he also knew that he needed to be prepared if things escalated. Armed with this newfound knowledge, he tucked the folder into a safe spot, ready to pull it out if Claire continued to make false accusations. This wasn't just about defending himself anymore. It was about standing up to a person who thought they could get away with causing harm to others, simply because they felt entitled to do so. The Rock knew that the next time Claire confronted him, he would be ready, not just with the truth, but with the facts to back it up. He had learned his lesson. Never let someone's power, influence, or lies intimidate you. If Claire came after him again, he would be prepared to stand his ground no matter what. The following Saturday, The Rock was ready. As he started up his mower, he was sure that Claire would confront him again. And sure enough, within minutes, he saw her storming out of her house, her heels sinking into the grass as she marched toward him. "I told you not to mow this lawn again," Claire yelled, her voice high-pitched with rage. The Rock shut off the mower, keeping his voice calm. "I'm just mowing my lawn, Claire. I have every right to do that." Claire's eyes narrowed and she pointed a shaking finger at him. "You're a drug addict and you're ruining this entire neighborhood. I'm calling the cops again, and this time you're going to jail." As Claire dialed 911, The Rock reached into the compartment of his mower and pulled out the folder. He had prepared. He wasn't going to let her lie to the police again. "Hello, police. There's a man here and he's a drug addict. He's threatening me and disturbing the peace," Claire cried into the phone. When the officers arrived, Claire rushed to them, her voice frantic. "He's a drug user. Arrest him," she screamed. The Rock stepped forward and handed the folder to the officers. "These are her criminal records," he said calmly. "She's a convicted predator, and I believe she's harassing me because I stood up to her." The officers reviewed the documents and their expressions turned serious. "Ma'am, these documents seem to be legitimate," Officer Ramos said, his voice hardening. "No, he's lying. He's ruining my life," Claire screeched, lunging toward The Rock in a fit of rage. The officers quickly stepped between them, and Claire was arrested for making false reports and attempting to assault The Rock. The neighbors who had gathered cheered, relieved that Claire's reign of terror had finally come to an end. As the police drove Claire away, The Rock finished mowing his lawn. That evening he joined his neighbors for a small celebration. They laughed and shared stories, grateful that the toxic presence in their community was gone. The Rock stood in his driveway, looking at his freshly mowed lawn with a sense of pride. He had stood up for himself, and for once, justice had been served. What we saw today was a story of standing up against injustice and the power of truth. The Rock didn't let the false accusations of his neighbor Claire affect him. He stayed calm under pressure, gathered the facts, and most importantly, he didn't back down when faced with someone trying to intimidate him. Claire thought she could bully him because of her racist attitude, but The Rock's calm resolve and determination to protect himself turned the tide. The lesson here is clear. No matter what, always stand firm for what's right, even when it feels like the world is against you. This story teaches us the importance of self-respect, not letting others define your worth, and being ready to speak the truth, even when it's difficult. We can all take a page from The Rock's book. He didn't let anger or fear guide him, but instead he took action in a way that was respectful and assertive. Sometimes all it takes is one person standing up to make a difference, and it's a reminder to all of us that we should never let hate or intolerance go unchecked. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, don't forget to like, share, and follow the channel. We've got more powerful, inspiring stories coming your way. Your support means everything. Let's spread positivity, strength, and courage together. Stay tuned for the next episode, and remember to always stand tall, just like The Rock.